Hello and welcome to the Rotary in Action podcast. We are here at Expo 2020 in the Rotary Majlis of Friendship, and we have a very, very special guest with us here today, President David Gibson Moore. I'm going to introduce our guest a little bit more so that we can understand a little better who we have with us. President David Gibson Moore is currently the president of Rotary Cosmopolitan Dubai. He is a member of the Arts Club Society Trustees Circle at the Rotary Foundation and was Deputy District Governor with responsibility for the UAE. He is District International Service Committee Chair and District Peace Fellowship Chair for Rotary District 2452. And currently, he is a member of the Rotary International COVID-19 Task Force. Over to his professional career, President David Gibson Moore has had an international 30-year career in investment banking and institutional asset management, notably JP Morgan Chase across the GCC, Europe, and New York. He is currently the president and the CEO of Gulf Analytica, and that is a general finance consultancy that offers advice to leading individuals and corporations in the GCC. Thank you so much for joining us, President David. It's an honor to have you here.
David, it is the greatest pleasure to be with you here this morning at Expo 2020.
How have you enjoyed Expo so far?
I think it's been a fabulous experience and it really even further enhanced by this wonderful office that we have here.
Yeah.
And you can see the photos on the wall of all the many Rotarians that have visited us. Yeah. Great success.
I'm going to jump right into something that I've always wanted to know. Tell me about your personal journey in Rotary. Where did it all start? And how has it developed into the years leading up to being the president of the club today?
Well, thank you for asking, David. I think that that's always an interesting question for any Rotarian. I must confess I joined in 1984. That does make me a little bit of a veteran Rotarian. That was when I was in Manama. The Rotary Club of Manama, as you probably know, is the oldest club in the Gulf. It was founded in 1968, so it has great traditions. And frankly, I just arrived in Bahrain. It was a very prestigious club. There are more business associations or possible clubs you could join now, but it really was the club. The major ambassadors, the US, the UK, the French, the Russian, the Chinese ambassador used to come regularly to our meetings. And it was a collection of incredibly senior businessmen, and some of the ruling family were members. And it was just a terrific opportunity. I knew a little bit about Rotary, but very quickly became passionately interested, if you like. And for a number of years in that club, I was responsible for the Rotary Foundation work. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about some of the projects anyway that are available to Rotarians. And then, and I think it's the same with everybody, you have different stages in your career. You're traveling a lot. Sometimes you can't be as involved as you would like to be. But I did follow the club through to Switzerland, and I was also a Rotarian in New York. And then when I came back here, here was the first place that I rejoined, because in Saudi and in Kuwait, where I was based, it wasn't there. So it was a great pleasure when I relocated 7 years ago to Dubai to join. And it's been a wonderful journey.
That's excellent. Do you think we'll be able to establish Rotary in Kuwait and Saudi as well?
I hope so. Indeed. In fact, there's a project to set things up in Saudi. As you know, Saudi is changing fast, and there seems to be a lot of receptivity. It could quite easily become one of the biggest representations we have in the GCC. And that's a work in progress at the moment.
That's excellent. I'm from Kuwait. I grew up there, and I've always wondered, once I understood what Rotary is, I'd go back there to meet my parents, and Rotarians from where I am in India would tell me, David, let's start a club in Kuwait. Let's make it a sister club. And that's why the reason I'm bringing this up is I understand how challenging and how aspirational it is to start a Rotary club.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I want to bring on to. So about the Rotary Cosmopolitan Dubai Club, can you tell me about that little part of your journey as well?
Well, we've had a club called Cosmopolitan in Dubai for some time. It's been a great pleasure to have got a tremendously active board. And we're working on a number of projects. We've had some incredible speakers already this year, some very prestigious speakers. That's only part of it, of course, though, and the real heart of Rotary is the work we're doing on the community service side and vocational service side, which we're developing rapidly. So it's been a tremendously interesting 6 months, the first 6 months of the Rotary year.
That's wonderful to hear. Coming out of the pandemic and coming out of the harsh year of 2020 that we had, to see us coming back into action again, coming back and meeting the people and getting our ideas together to see a future again is absolutely important. And I've had the opportunity to attend one of the meetings, and I have to say it's a real honor to be in the club, to meet the people and to exchange the mindset that Rotarians have. It's something different.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
One thing that is always been a question for me as a Rotaractor is the Rotary Foundation. I frankly know I've read about it on the internet, but to have somebody who has the experience that you've had dealing with the people who are behind it and inside the whole story, I would like to know more about, from the basic, what is the framework, what is the Rotary Foundation, and where did it start?
Well, thank you for asking. And in fact, David, that's a question a lot of people ask, because it's really, I believe, absolutely at the heart of what Rotary is doing. I mean, if we look at the history, as we know, Rotary was founded by Paul Harris in 1905. And it wasn't until 1917 that I believe the sixth Rotary president, a gentleman called Arch Clumph, decided that it would be very useful in terms of what Rotary was evolving towards, to have a fund. And so he set up an endowment. An endowment is a trust, or sometimes called a foundation. And it goes down in Rotary folklore that the first donation was $26.50. And the first disbursement was about 10 years later to the International Association of Crippled Children for $100. So that was the beginning. And since then, it's grown to a $1.3 billion foundation. And through that foundation, there have been disbursements of $3.5 billion to all the wonderful work that Rotary has been doing internationally. So it's been really an incredible journey.
Our vision for the Rotary Foundation began 100 years ago. At Rotary's 1917 convention, President Arch Clumph proposed an endowment for doing good in the world. His dream expanded the reach of Rotary far beyond the club. A contribution of $26.50 launched our foundation's endowment. A century later, we've spent more than $3 billion on humanitarian efforts worldwide. Rotarians wanted to broaden their impact, so our foundation began funding their projects. A decade later, we began supporting larger projects to address health, hunger, and other humanitarian needs. Today's large-scale grants are measurable and sustainable. They allow us to tackle humanity's greatest challenges. "100 years ago, Arch Clumph had a vision. His vision has become our legacy.
The Rotary Foundation is a great tool to transform the world.
That's what Rotary is all about. Vision to see, faith to believe, and courage to act.
The Rotary Foundation. We are doing good in the world. Let's continue for the next 100 years.
That is a question that's often asked, I think, about Rotary. What is the difference between Rotary International and the Foundation? And they're quite clearly different. I mean, Rotary International is the organizational body. It's run from Evanston in Chicago. It's run through zones and districts and the clubs. And that's what we're all members of, Rotary International. quite separate from this is the foundation, which is run by a board of trustees, which in turn is appointed by Rotary International. There's a chairman of the board of trustees. This year it's John Germ, a wonderful Rotarian from Chattanooga in Tennessee. And that's quite different. So when we talk about a lot of what Rotary is doing internationally in the world, we have to really talk about what the foundation is doing and how the finances are really being set up. And we can discuss that a little bit further if you would like.
Please educate us because about the funds and how the framework is set up and how can we take advantage of such an established institution and how can we make sure that we all benefit from this?
Right. Well, it has, as you can imagine, developed over the years, but I like to say that really in terms of this large amount of money, there are three buckets, if you like. There's first of all the direct programs that, for instance, are our Polio Plus program, and again we can discuss in a little bit further detail, or for instance the Emergency Disaster Fund that is specifically set up to fund disasters that occurred in the last 6 months. So that is a slightly rapid authorization program, if you like. So there are a number of specific programs, and the funds are managed on a very short-term basis for that, because the money comes in, and then the whole idea is to disperse the money as soon as you can, once you've identified the uses within those specific programs. So that's the first bucket, if you like. The second bucket is the endowment portion. Now, quite a lot of our members in their wills, if you like, or during the course of their life, or indeed other institutions, third parties, decide they would like to endow money to the foundation. This is run on a completely different basis. It's a very long-term basis. It's a segment of the portfolio that remains in perpetuity, and only the income being generated by this fund is used for Rotary purposes. Then the third bucket is the so-called annual fund, and that's where the money donated by the clubs, or in fact individuals, and we can talk about this in a moment, which is a very interesting part of our program, comes in to the annual fund annually. It remains there for 3 years and then is dispersed into global grants or other uses that Rotary identifies for it. And that 3-year program is called the SHARE program. So if you see that in our literature, you will find reference to the SHARE program. And that's the 3-year disbursement program within the annual fund. So that, broadly speaking, is, and I've got some extremely complicated charts showing the detailed flows, but that's the overall picture.
Okay.
So then clubs, as I mentioned, if they raise money and want to give that as a club to the foundation, that would go into the annual fund. But I think very interestingly for all of our members, we have the methods whereby individuals can donate to the foundation. And this is done through the so-called Paul Harris Society. And every Rotarian, if they can manage it, are encouraged to become members of the Paul Harris Association. They would give $1,000 to open the door, and you get a very nice badge. And then hopefully you could increase that amount over time, and you get an ever-enhanced badge. When you reach $10,000, you become a major donor, and then it's scaled up until ultimately you can perhaps become a member of the Arch Clump trustee circle. So that's a way that everyone can personally give to the foundation. And then if you can't give 1,000, if that's a bit of a stretch one year or whatever, you can give a smaller amount and pay in installments up to reaching 1,000, at which point in time you become a Paul Harris member. So that's really something that all the clubs are encouraging, personal involvement in giving money to the foundation. That's a very important part, a very important source of money for the foundation each year.
So I wanted to touch on a certain topic, the polio eradication program.
Right.
And also the the disaster relief fund. Now, individuals across the world, if they find it in their heart to donate to these specific causes,
right.
Let's say somebody donates $2,000. Is there a way that we can understand, is there a certain amount of transparency to understand how the funds will be utilized?
Absolutely. When you subscribe to the Paul Harris program, you get asked what use you would like to have your funds put to. And there are various programs, one of which is the Polio Plus, one of which is disaster relief. There's a so-called World Fund also that disperses on a worldwide basis, either through grants or through other means, which you can designate your money to, or else to the annual fund if you just want to have a general donation to the foundation. But you have a number of choices on the form when you apply for the Paul Harris subscription.
Okay. The polio program is one that's very special to me because I got my introduction into Rotary through the polio eradication program. And we started our journey back in Bangalore, and we were sponsored by the Rotary Club of Bangalore Brigades. And we chartered a Rotaract Club back in Bangalore in 2016.
Terrific.
And through the years, our core focus has been the polio eradication program.
For each of us, there are moments that define us. Moments where we fought for what we believed.
The moment Berliners have waited 28 years for.
When we pushed the boundaries to the unknown. Moments that remind us of a past we cannot accept, and that create within us the desire to take a stand and do something. 30 years ago, polio was claiming the lives of hundreds of thousands of children just like me. There was a vaccine that could help stop it, but it wasn't reaching all of us. Until you decided to step in and do something. You decided to find a way to reach us all, no matter where in the world we might be. It all started with one small project, and 6 million children were saved from polio forever. The world took notice, and things began to change. On streets, on trains, planes, boats and bicycles. Over deserts and rivers, mountains and valleys, through jungles and war zones, you never stopped. But it can't end here. We are this close, the closest that we've ever been.
Countless Rotary members are donating their expertise, time, and money to make polio a disease of the past. The work we've accomplished collectively is exceptional. Together with our partners, we've immunized nearly 3 billion children and prevented more than 19 million cases of polio. Today, the wild polio virus is contained in just 2 countries, and circulation of the wild virus is lower than ever. While this is encouraging, the job isn't done. It will require our collective energy to wipe out wild polio in Pakistan and Afghanistan and overcome the remaining challenges. We must use new strategies and every available vaccine to tackle vaccine-derived polio.
And what we've done for that is, first of all, we were trained by a veteran Rotarian like yourself from back in India. His name is Rotarian Prasad Sundaram. He's been involved with the polio eradication program for 35 years. So it's only when somebody who has the knowledge and has seen the effect through the years, from leading from 1 million cases down to the 1% that we're at today, only somebody who's seen that journey can really
Absolutely.
pass on that passion to somebody. So what we did is we, first of all, received training, and then we gave that training to hospitals, right, to clinics, to pharmacies, to especially students, doctors to be, engineers. We trained them by organizing mega polio eradication training programs in schools and institutions.
Wonderful.
Then we take them and then we go into the ground on national immunization days and we inoculate children. And we've done this for 4 times in a row. And in total, over the 4 years, we've inoculated 10,000 children.
Well, that's a wonderful story. And certainly the Polio Plus is the program that Rotary is the proudest of, I think, of any of its programs.
Yeah. The most notable, I would say.
Exactly. And I think it's fair to say that polio has practically been eliminated. The issue, as you implied, is that, of course, you've got to keep going. If you stop vaccination, it's going to you're going to have a lot of outbreaks, and we may get onto this in a moment. But I've been very much involved in the COVID-19 program, and that is really being established on the back of the great success that we've had with polio eradication.
Could you expand on that?
Yes, indeed. But perhaps just say a few words as well. I mean, COVAX is the program, or the international program, that actually distributes the polio vaccinations. And this is under the auspices of Gavi, that is a program that was founded by Rotary, but now brings in the World Health Organization and a number of other international bodies that administers the COVAX program. I mentioned that because this network that we've set up and that you've referred to in Bangalore, that must have been a wonderful opportunity, is potentially there to help distribute vaccinations for COVID-19, that one could argue is probably the most dramatic challenge the world has today. We can see it's coming up in the press all the time. Yeah. So just to pick up on your question, we have set up, and it is run, it's a 9-person global group in Rotary. I had the privilege of being asked to join this.
COVID-19 task force.
COVID-19 task force. It reports directly to the Rotary International board and to the trust through the board of trustees. John Germ is on all of our Zoom calls that take place once a week or once every other week. We have been, first of all, trying to assemble the latest techniques and what is happening in the world of Rotary. I was given initially Middle East, North Africa as my area of responsibility. However, when Rotary decided to really look at the geographic responsibilities, I was given all of Zone 21 as well. That means that I have 45 countries, and I'm in regular contact with 22 district governors on this exercise. So we are distributing knowledge, and we're distributing information on what other Rotary clubs have been doing, if that can be of use in other areas. For instance, I had a very interesting webinar with a medical group in Egypt. They have done a lot of work in terms of vaccination distribution, and they've also done a lot of work in terms of WhatsApp dialogue and YouTube dialogue with clubs from medical experts. And it's all been incredibly interesting. And my geographies include countries like Ukraine and Bulgaria and Austria that are in the throes of this new lockdown in Europe. In Middle East, we've got some countries that are wonderfully advanced, like obviously the UAE, where I think we've got 93% double vaccination rates now, right down to Yemen and Iraq and Afghanistan that are frankly in tremendous distress. So it's really been a fascinating area.
One topic that I've always wondered about is the global grants. The whole topic of grants that Rotary allows us to take advantage of. Can you give us the framework of what grants are? How can someone who's entering the organization understand this better and utilize it better?
Right. Well, the whole process is fairly complicated because there are a number of different nuances and different flavors, if you like, to this. But Rotary Foundation obviously has built up funds, and then the challenge is, okay, we've got the funds here, and how do we give them out to the appropriate projects? So there's a very well-defined system of applying for grants. You've got different levels. I think it's fair to say that the global grants are, generally speaking, larger scale projects. They're usually, and there is a financial criterion. I can't exactly, I think it's $25,000 that has to be the minimum size for a global grant. And there's a whole structure. You have to have a host club in the country concerned. Then you can have various overseas clubs that participate in this. There's a very well-defined and very detailed structure to apply for such a program. It's done on a very professional project type analysis where you have key objectives which are tracked. During the course after approval of the project, The disbursement process is very carefully tracked. There's annual accounting for the project. It's all done very, very professionally. And these situations really cover all of the great work that's being done by Rotary around the world. We try, and actually it's a requirement in the application, to identify which areas of focus the grant is dedicated towards. And we've got them on the wall here, actually, just a bit further down there. And as you know, disease prevention and environment and maternity relief and several other key areas. So it has to be identified as being focused and used for one of our key areas of focus, the 7 areas of focus.
Maybe could you give us an example of a time where you have participated in the whole application process of grant towards a certain mission? Could you give us any example of those?
We're working on one here in the UAE, but I've been involved in a cataract project in Kerala in India. That was when I was in Bahrain, and we were one of the overseas clubs, and there was a local club sponsoring this. So they had gone through all the grant application process. And we came in because we identified this as a fairly near country, a country we'd very much like to help this particular project. And it was just wonderful when the thing had gone through. I mean, to see these villagers coming in and getting their cataracts. And my father was an ophthalmic surgeon. In the old days, a cataract operation used to take several hours. But now with laser technology, if you have a cup of coffee, you're in, you're out, and have another cup of coffee. It takes about an hour maximum. So it was wonderful to see our money actually being dedicated to these villagers and beneficiaries of this program.
The next topic that we want to jump onto is the Rotary Peace Fellowships. As we can see here, it's one of Rotary's major programs. And I personally don't have any experience with the Peace Fellowships. Can you explain to us, to somebody who doesn't know, what it's about and what is the whole framework here?
I'm the CEO of Red Dot Foundation. It's a not-for-profit in India as well as in the US. And our main work is sexual violence prevention.
Right now I'm based in Bangkok, building up a social enterprise network, supporting smallholders farmers in moving to sustainable agriculture.
One of my passions is working with youth, providing mentorship and drawing out the leadership and skills that so many of our young people have.
I've been involved with Aikido for over 35 years. I have been working a lot with traumatized clients, especially from abuse, from domestic violence.
I'm the founder and CEO of The Female Voice, a global hub for females to empower the world.
My work is to build bridges between communities, to make sure that communities understand each other, to create receptivity for immigration.
I work now at the Sanitation and Water for All partnership. What we do as a partnership is to really catalyze action around the water, sanitation and hygiene.
Some of the skills that I took back from the Rotary Peace Fellowship program was better communication in the non-violent space.
If we can support the economic development in a very sustainable way, I believe that we have a chance for building a peace platform.
First of all, we are a family of Peace Fellows, and we see ourselves as change agents in the community.
The fellowship creates sort of this hotbed of growth and evolution for peace builders, for people advocating for social change.
The training for me, it helped because I did not just come out as somebody who understands development policy, but I also have this insight into peace and conflict resolution.
It's my personal experience that Aikido can bring peace from within, and then you can expand that to other people through your interaction.
And if you have the passion and you have the desire to make change in your community or in the world, you're the right person for this program.
We have around the world 6 Rotary Peace Fellowship scholarship programs at different universities. And in fact, we're looking at the location for a possible university that could offer this within our own district at the moment. The program, which is one of the oldest programs, actually, it was set up just after the Second World War in Rotary, is to try and develop leaders in different fields, but who are interested passionately in peace and peace prevention, to further their qualifications and enhance their careers. So each district, and I've got the pleasure of being the District Peace Fellowship Chair this year for our own district, and it's a program that really comes into action in the second half of the Rotary year, identifies people, typically younger people, if you like. The ideal profile is someone who's already got a university degree and has been working in some peace-related activity in the broadest possible sense. This could be with an NGO or in a government position, or even with a private corporation, but with a focus on peace and conflict resolution. And those chosen candidates, and the last 6 months of the Rotary year is dedicated to identifying and interviewing and selecting for each district a short list of candidates for the program. Now, the qualifications available are either a 2-year master's program or there's a 1-year certificate program. And the candidates will also have had to have previously applied to one of the Peace Center universities and their admission accepted. And then the combination of our qualifying the candidates in Rotary and the university accepting those candidates for pupils, alumni in the university, is that Rotary will fund the program for them. So every year, going through this process, we get about 100 Rotarians who have fully qualified, accepted by the universities, and funded by Rotary. And then they go on and do all sorts of things. I would mention that my endowment to the Archclumph Trustee Circle is dedicated to setting up 2 peace programs in Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok. That's a city I know well and have some property in, and I have known previously academics in Bangkok, so it's been a real pleasure to do this. It's one of the most popular programs, and so each year, as part of this endowment, 2 David Gibson Moore Peace Fellows will be graduating. That's actually in the certification program. That's not the master's program. But I mean, I think this is a wonderful endeavor that Rotary has put together.
I think we had a fantastic conversation about so many valuable topics within the Rotary world. And I think it's going to really reach out to the audience that are seeking knowledge about Rotary, about the fundamental aspects of Rotary, like the Rotary Foundation, the Peace Fellowships, and so much more. Thank you so much for investing your time in our Rotary in Action podcast. We are looking forward to meeting you again and to hearing more from you another time.
It's been the greatest pleasure, David. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.